Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is Tuesday, the 31st of March. You are with Steve Wyss and James Eastham, and we are going to be going through the international soccer slate today. The final World Cup places are up for grabs. James, it's not often me and you do a Tuesday together, but this has got to be. We've looked out here, this is the most exciting day of this whole international window slate. How are you doing?
Yeah. Absolutely, it is, Steve. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. It's great to be here. There's obviously mixed views about international breaks. I can see that in the comments already. People looking forward to the league program coming back this weekend, which I understand, but it is a really exciting set of games tonight. We will finally know all the teams that have qualified on the pitch for the World Cup this summer in USA, Canada, Mexico, after the games that we're looking at today. So some really, really fascinating ties and some great drama lying ahead for everybody in lots of different parts of the world today. It's going to be a good show looking ahead to those games.
Yeah, it certainly is. Welcoming everyone. Rick Haley, Father Brian, Steve from Lynn, Real Brandon King, Ming Chung. Real Brandon King says he can't wait till this international break is over. It feels like forever. It's been so long. He's listened to the Betting Zoo twice.
Wow.
With the latest episode did come out on Friday with me and Nathan Joys. And it has, I'm watching I've got the cricket on the TV right now. IPL.
Yeah.
It's just started on Saturday. And, just as well, really, because at times there's not been much going on during this international break from the sort of the Euro perspective.
Yeah, very much. Listen, it is a different routine, isn't it? You got the break between the games where obviously nearly all the games are on the same night, and then you have 2 or 3 days off. So we're so used to league football across different divisions being spread across different days. And if you follow even 2 or 3 leagues, you can pretty much guarantee something every day. So it's a strange routine, but for those who struggle with it, don't worry, not long to go now. I'm personally really excited by not just these games, but actually the whole break, because it's when we get to find out the final groups, and then you can start to look at who you think may get through to the knockout phase of the World Cup and all the rest of it. That can only really be done properly, can't it, after these games have been played today?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's sort of bittersweet to some extent. But there's been plenty. At stateside, there's been so much action. We've had March Madness, of course, and there's been loads of big bets placed yesterday. 180,000 on the Brewers -1 against the Rays, unfortunately a loser. Nearly 170,000 on the Spurs -17.5 against the Bulls, unfortunately a loser. 164,000 on the Thunder -11.5 against the Pistons, unfortunately another loser. Trying to find a winner here, James.
Yeah.
Not many. Even the biggest 2 soccer bets lost yesterday in the Germany-Ghana game. Not the greatest day for the big bets. I just mentioned Spurs there.
Yeah.
But in terms of the soccer Spurs, the big news today, someone's already asked the question. Roberto De Zerbi, Fabrizio Romano's done the here we go. Looks like he's in at Spurs. 5-year deal. Who would give Roberto De Zerbi
a
5-year deal? He's never lasted more than, I think, 3 years at any club. How do you think he's going to get on? Will he save Spurs? B, is it a good appointment in the long term?
Well, I don't know if he will save Spurs. I'm not sure what sort of immediate impact he will have. As regards to the deal, I find the length of it baffling. Obviously, his last club was Marseille. There was a lot of talk at Marseille between him and the president, Pablo Longoria, who I really like, about De Zerbi staying for the long haul. Being there for 3 years was what they were talking about as a long-term stay at Marseille. And he managed about half of that. And he's obviously, left earlier this year. So I don't know why you would give him such a long deal. It seems pointless to me, and it potentially complicating things for further down the line. I can see why they would want to go for him. He's obviously got Premier League experience. He knows that division. He did pretty well, I think you can say, at Brighton. I think he did okay at Marseille. Ironically, I don't think he did much better at Marseille than Igor Tudor did at Marseille. They've both been Marseille managers, and if you compare how they did, it was pretty much the same. Obviously, if it works out that they're pretty much the same at Tottenham will be in trouble. So let's wait and see. But yeah, the big takeaway for me at the moment, if the news that we're seeing is correct, is that the length of deal is perplexing, let's say.
Yeah, I think long term it's a poor move for Spurs. He has a history of falling out with clubs, so I couldn't see him lasting that long. Anyway, but and Father Brian makes this, De Zerbi has honeymoon phases in each job. I think that's why they've gone for him, because they need an instant impact. One thing I'll say about De Zerbi, he's not a boring manager. He's not a boring personality. He makes things happen, whether it be good or bad, or ugly for that matter. And, it wouldn't surprise me if they randomly picked up a couple of surprise wins before the end of the season, because he's that sort of manager. But that's what they were after. So I'm kind of in, I'm sitting on the fence here. I'm not saying it's a bad point, not saying it's a good one. We'll have to wait and see, but it won't be boring. I'll tell you that much. Tottenham Hotspur will not be boring in the last few. Maybe they needed to be boring, though. There was a case that they just needed someone to come in and be like a Sean Dyche, 1-0, 2-0, nick a point.
Yeah.
Maybe they needed to be boring. We will have to wait and see. Chippy Chip says Spurs to the Championship. Here we go. Does he stay if they get relegated? He'd probably have a contract clause. De Zerbi in the Championship would be kind of ridiculous. He was Humble Levadian said he was disappointed how he lost the team in Marseille.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It was a bit disappointing because at times there was some really good soccer on show.
Yes,
when he was in there. Plenty of talk in chat about Congo. Don't worry, we've got Congo. We're talking about that match. In fact, they are part of the Daily Double today. Is that match?
So totally agree, guys. Yeah, loving the comments on DR Congo, but we will come to them later.
We certainly will. Steve, what is my best bets in the IPL? Well, I'm actually looking at the Punjab first 6 overs run line. If it's lower than 56, I'd probably go the over. But let's just see what the first innings total is first. But anyway, we're not here to talk about cricket today. Anyway, we are here to talk about international soccer, and this is when it gets serious. 7th of September, 2023, James. Why is that date so significant? That's when World Cup qualifying started.
Wow.
For the World Cup 2026, and this is the day it ends. So Kosovo, Turkey is the first one in Europe. Turkey minus 107 to win in 90 minutes. Kosovo there plus 300, tie plus 250. 90 minutes might not be enough today. We're getting extra time penalties. Kosovo have been an interesting side. Some call them underrated, some call them overrated, James. They had a tremendous group phase in qualifying, and I think surprised a lot of people by winning on Friday. Because that was not a match which looked too favourable. A lot of people expecting Turkey to qualify here. How do you see it going?
And I understand that view on Turkey, Steve. Minus money to win in 90 minutes. Not sure about that, but they do have a little bit more experience of getting to major tournaments than Kosovo. Not so much World Cups, but we obviously see them at the Euros. I get it. I think they do deserve to be favourites. However, I think Kosovo are underrated. You said some people think underrated, some people say overrated. I think underrated. I think their form has been excellent. It's obviously a huge win against Slovakia on Friday. They won that game 4-3. They were 1-0 down and 2-1 down in that game. Then they went 4-2 ahead and they won it 4-3. And it was the latest in a run of good results for Kosovo. You have to say that. I think they're unbeaten in their last 6, 4 wins and 2 draws. I think they've lost only one of their last 15 in 90 minutes. I think they've won 12 out of their last 15. So this is a team doing really well. I think they are punching above their weight. I think they're doing a bit better than people expect. So whether they'll go through or not, I'm not sure, but I can see them taking Turkey to extra time here. And I don't have an official pick on the game, but I do like Kosovo on the Asian handicap. Kosovo plus 0.5 on the Asian handicap at minus 114. I like that because I think there's a good chance of Kosovo not losing in 90 minutes. You may want to look at the tie in 90 minutes, which is available at something like plus 250. That would be another way to get Kosovo on side. But just looking at them, how they played in the last, not just 6 months, but 12 and 18 months, they have been very difficult to beat. And I look at Turkey and I think, yeah, a good side. They've been in pretty good form themselves as well. But it's a tough game for them away from home. There've been, some games recently when they face better sides, which they've struggled to win. So, yeah, I think Kosovo's slightly underrated here. If I was to play it, I'd try to find a way to support Kosovo. Not a strong view, I have to say, on this game. We're obviously working through the the fixtures today, we're telling you what we think. But yeah, if I was coming down on one side or the other here, I would be coming down on the side of Kosovo.
I had a feeling that you would be in the Kosovo camp. I just had a feeling. I kind of know certain betters, and I just suspected that you would be.
Yeah,
I'm more Turkey.
Yeah,
because I just think they're much the better side, and the quality might show here. However, the bet I'm actually going to take in the game is both teams score yes. Rick Haley mentions that. It's minus 137. Historically, you've got to be looking at overs and goals and action with Turkey fixtures. Dan Roebuck is in chat. He's saying Turkey and unders. That's what happened against Romania, which surprised me. 1-0 Turkey is not the sort of scoreline you ever expect from Turkey. Usually, if they win, it's either they thrash someone or they win. Both teams score yes. I don't trust their defense. I just haven't. I've never trusted it fully. I like their offense though. So I think both teams to score yes at minus 137. I think Turkey will qualify. I don't know in what form they'll qualify. Would I want to back them minus money over 90 minutes? Probably not. Probably not. So I do agree with you on the value side of that. The winner, by the way, of this tie goes into the group containing USA, Paraguay, and Australia. Now that's qualifiable.
Yeah,
really, isn't it?
Not the worst group, is it, that you could land in?
Not the worst group at all. I suspect a lot of the other nations will want Kosovo in, but they're no mugs. I'll say that. They've got to this stage by merit. So they can be a dangerous team. I mean, we know they've got goals in them. We saw that on in the last match against Slovakia there. Yeah. In terms of the money splits for the game, 94% of the money's on Turkey, 93% of the tickets are on Turkey, and 79% of the over-under money's on the over. I'm going to have a look at some more chat bets here. Over 2.5 says Jay Mitch, Father Brian, goal in both halves, minus 125. Janepi, good to see you. North Vancouver Canucks saying he's wagering the draw on every game and then putting some pizza money on Bosnia and Kosovo parlay. So yeah, that's interesting. What else have we got? Janepi says Kosovo, very underrated side. Turkey, 1 clean sheet in the last 8 away. I can see both teams score as well. Yeah. I'm not on Turkey, Stephen. No, I'm not. I'm certainly not betting them in 90 minutes. I think they'll qualify, and I'd like to actually see them at the World Cup. I think they're an exciting team. They're good to bet on in the World Cup because you can get on the shots, the corners, everything, because they'll just have a good go. Kosovo, I'm not so sure about them. I've done my money on Kosovo a bit, I'll be honest, James, in the last 2 or 3 years. So that's never a good sign, is it? But
no. I think interesting though about North Vancouver Canuck wagering the draw on every game. I had a look back to the World Cup qualifiers at this stage 4 years ago, and you can try and dig into it and see if the psychology or the approach of teams changes in this type of scenario where it's do or die now, and does it change the approach that a team will take, and will they be more defensive or whatever? And I kind of understand that approach of wagering the draw on every game, because at plus 200 or bigger, you only need 1 in 2 to end in a draw to make a profit if you're backing all of them. So I kind of get it. And certainly in the European games, I tend to think they will be quite close. The prices don't always reflect that. But I think they will be quite close because nerves come into it, and they're probably going to play a little bit differently, I think. So it might be a bit more closed down and a bit more tense than we've seen from some of these teams in their previous games. But yeah, the approach of backing the draw, I understand that, and I quite like it myself.
Alpha Quota, good afternoon from Twitch. Reminder, of course, we are live on Twitch as well. Hello to Twitch viewers and Facebook viewers for that matter. Drop in and say hi if you're watching on that platform. We will continue our World Cup qualifying Europe now, Sweden, Poland, and I am going to get stuck in here. I am going to, I might be been a little bit biased here and a little bit sort of my heart taking over my head, but Sweden for me. Sweden will definitely, for me, qualify here, and I'm going to back them to win in 90 minutes, even money with Bet Rivers. I was a little bit skeptical about how they would perform against Ukraine, because that's just a difficult fixture for so many different reasons. But they really impressed me, actually. Graham Potter, of course, has taken charge here. He's now been given a contract until 2030. Now, that doesn't always mean anything, because if a good club job came available, I'm sure he would be interested. But he's kind of committed to the project, James.
Yeah.
What did you make of Sweden the other night?
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance. They'd obviously struggled, hadn't they, the back end of qualifying? If you look through some of their results before that game against Ukraine the other night, it hadn't looked too clever from Sweden. You know, they had home and away defeats against Kosovo and home and away defeats against Switzerland not that long ago. So I think they had problems in the camp. Obviously, they've had that change of manager with Potter coming in. It's an interesting game, this. Sweden's price of plus 100, I think, will put some people off because of that longer term form where they've struggled. It's one of those where you really need to decide if those results, you know, under a previous manager and some time ago now actually matter anymore. Because I think there's definitely the quality in the side. And, you know, really, you could argue the only game that actually matters now for Sweden is the fact they've beaten Ukraine pretty impressively. So you may want to dump some of that longer term data and evidence on Sweden. I found this a difficult game to call in terms of the prices. I can see Sweden winning it 3-1, something like that again. I could see it being a 2-2 draw. I think both teams have got quality, particularly going forward. And I think the props markets are something to look at on this game. So, you know, I'm not branding it Victor Gyökeres versus Lewandowski, but you've got two big hitters at the points of the attack for these two sides. And actually, I think the prices on the players are quite interesting because Gyökeres has just scored a hat-trick against Ukraine. You know, whatever people feel about how he's performing at Arsenal, it's a really big performance from him in a really big game for his country. And he's plus 125 to have over 1.5 shots on target in this game. I really like that. It's a market I like, the shot on target market. I think Gyökeres to have over 1.5 shots on target at plus money is worth a look. I think he's plus 130 to score. So you may want to take that sort of angle, but I quite like goals in this game. Having said that, the goal line is set fairly high. I think the market is expecting goals in this game, which I think is fair. So in the end, I left it alone. But like I say, Gyökeres, in the sort of form that he is based on the other night, he may be worth a look in the props market if you're looking for a player to back across any of the European games that are taking place tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Gyökeres, we've got to talk about that, and you know, there's certainly plenty of people out there have been tipping him up today, and it's no surprise. Plus 125 with Bet Rivers to score at any time. I did an Instagram on the Ukraine Sweden game. I got it wrong actually. I thought it'd be tight, close. I went for halftime draw. But one thing I did say in that video on the Instagram was a lot's going to depend this Sweden on how Graham Potter utilizes Victor Gyökeres, and if he can get a proper tune out of him, well, what a start. Potter has his critics down the years, but he's a brilliant man manager at times. He instills confidence into people, and I suspect he's going to make these Swedish international camps a fun place to be around, where it takes the pressure off almost from your club game, really. And that is a brilliant start for Potter, and he's going to get Gyökeres in the right positions. It's probably different to what he does at Arsenal, different style completely. So that is a massive positive for me.
It really is. I also think on Graham Potter, you're talking about making the place a fun camp for the players, Steve. I think it's going to be a really pleasing change of scene for Graham Potter as well. His career's obviously hit the skids a little bit at club level. He's had some difficult jobs. He's had some testing times. I think this country suits him as a national team job, and you're right. I think he backs himself as a coach. I don't think that's ever been in doubt. And I think, you know, getting a group of players together like this who are going to respond to someone who's got a good pedigree and is a good coach and has got a good reputation for coaching them and getting them in the right frame of mind and the right shape for one-off games like this. I think it's a sort of challenge that Graham Potter will really relish. So I do think that's an asset. And I think you're absolutely right. Look at what he's got out of him in one big game so far. So plenty of potential, I think, from Gyökeres, particularly going into this game tonight.
The match is going to be played at the Strawberry Arena, which is a great name, isn't it, in Stockholm there. Big capacity, about 50,000, I think. The fans will get behind them here properly. Trust me, the Swedes can really get behind their own team on a big night like this. Let's have a look at some of the comments in the chat here. Father Brian, 8 of the last 10 Sweden games have seen over 1.5 goals in the second half. And Mulavalian saying Sweden and both teams score. Almighty Hullesta says Sweden and Denmark to win in 90 at plus 330. That would be. Ian Messina, both teams score. Yes, decent price. Kruku is saying, and this is a man often against the grain, to be fair. and he sometimes does get it right. Poland to win, Poland double chance, Zielinski score assist.
Yeah.
Poland under shots on target, though, as well. Interesting mix. Sweden is not winning this one. Sweden is currently very, very bad at playing football, and they have many injuries. I just think they do have injuries, yes, that is for sure. But I think you really got to take that Graham Potter first match under consideration a bit more, Kruku. But Poland, let's be honest, right? And I ask this to anyone watching here, and you, James, when was the last time at international level you were genuinely convinced by Poland?
Yeah. Long time ago, to be honest. Long time ago. They're an interesting side, aren't they? Because they can be a bit awkward to play against. They're often there, but they don't really scare you very much, do they? That's the thing. And obviously, Lewandowski's been a huge weapon for them down the years. So, yeah, they're a difficult team I always find to assess, especially in major tournaments. Yeah, they'll be in a group and you'll be trying to work out, are they going to be a danger in that group? Where they'll often be like this. Yeah, 1982, I'm seeing in the comments there. Zivi Boniek and all of that. I mean, it's an interesting one. Just on the mention of Zielinski, I like that player being flagged up there by the comments, because I noticed he had 2 shots on target in their win against Albania to get to where they are now. He's plus 165 to have over 0.5 shots on target. And I think he will be a dangerous player for them. So have a look at Zielinski in the over 0.5 shot on target market. But the point you're making, Steve, yeah, I'm not sure they're that dangerous, I'll be honest. And I think Sweden, if they were not to go through here at home, I think they will be massively, massively disappointed with themselves, not just with not being there, but with themselves, because I do think there are far more factors set up just on this game tonight for Sweden to be the team that make it to the World Cup.
Sweden are 150 to 1 to win the World Cup with Bet Rivers. I actually think that's worth a few dollars. This is a team that reached the quarterfinals, for example, in 2018. They do have a history at tournaments of doing quite well. And there would be players to come back in from those injuries. I think Isak probably would be fit for the World Cup. I think Kulichevsky would have a chance of being fit for the World Cup, and a couple of others too. So that they've got weapons. Poland, by the way, 200 to 1, which, if you like them, that wouldn't maybe be the worst option either. Again, the group looks not a bad one to be entering. It's Netherlands, Japan, and Tunisia. Both teams could qualify from that group. No doubt about it. So, nice dangling carrot for both. Interesting betting split for the game. 84% of the money is actually on Poland here, and 62% of the tickets are on Sweden. Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that. More money on the under here. 63% of the money on the under, 87% of the tickets on the over. So a split in terms of the money and the tickets. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Half Space says Jokera score assist would be a safer option if you wanted that.
Yeah.
Never really noticed him as an assist provider, to be honest, but it can happen.
Yeah.
Cracking game. That's the one I'm watching tonight. I'm going to have my Arno 4, hopefully, but this is the one that I'll be focusing on. Czechia against Denmark now for this game. James, you were very tempted to have some of your daily double in this fixture. Denmark are plus 104 to win in 90 minutes. Czech Republic plus 295. Plus 225 for the tie. I thought Denmark might be a little bit bigger, but I'm not denying they should be favourites. Czech Republic kind of fall into the Poland category for me. When was the last real time I was convinced by them?
96.
96. I was just going to say the same answer. Both teams score yes. That's 120. I really like the corners here. It's probably my best bet of the day, actually. Denmark and corners go hand in hand. I love over 9.5 corners. I'll explain that in a minute. But in terms of match result and to qualify, which side would you be on?
Yeah, I like Denmark to go through, but you've sort of alluded to it already there, Steve. I was hoping for a slightly bigger price on Denmark. I think if they'd been plus 130 to win in 90 minutes, plus 135, something like that, I would have been tempted to take them on the money line, or you can then take them with a minus quarter goal start on the Asian handicap at maybe, just minus money. So a bit disappointed they're plus 104, but I think it's fair. And the main reason I fancy Denmark is their scoring power. If you look through their results going back some time now, this is a team that scores lots of goals. Going back across their last 10 matches, they've scored 29 goals, averaging nearly 3 goals a game on their own. I feel that type of scoring power is going to be a huge weapon in a one-off situation tonight. They've just beaten North Macedonia 4-0, very impressive win. 2 goals against Scotland. Admittedly, they obviously lost that game 4-2 back in the autumn, but they've got goals against Greece, Belarus, Lithuania, Portugal, teams like that over the last 12 months. So I think Denmark should get it done. I think it's difficult with the prices as they are on the money line for me to find a play here. I quite like Denmark total goals over 1.5, which is available at plus money, plus 115. It's a bit of a risk, I think, to be backing a team to get 2 goals away from home in a playoff final, as it were. Because as I've said earlier, I think maybe teams are going to be a little bit more cautious and a bit more nervous. So whether Denmark can score 2 goals away from home, let's wait and see. But I think statistically, looking at the form of the side, it makes sense. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. And like I say, the prices on Denmark are a bit too short for me. But I do think they should get it done and they should get through to the World Cup tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll have too much for them. Again, would I back them to win in 90 minutes? No, not at plus 104. I would have wanted plus 125, if I'm being honest. Do I think they'll get the job done in 90 minutes? Not necessarily either, because they sometimes huff and they puff, but eventually I think the quality will be enough for them to get over the line. I mentioned corners there with Denmark. They've been a staple of my international diet for years. I mean, these are the corner numbers for the last 7 games in Denmark fixtures: 13, 11, 16, 13, 11, 6. And that was when they won 3-0 away at Greece. They were up for most of the game, and then 17 before that. So we know what type of team they are. They do stretch the game. They just, no matter what the manager is. I've not really looked into Czech corners, to be fair. But just Denmark alone, I just bet on them blind. 9.5 corner line, minus 114 would be my best bet of the day. 89% of the money's on Denmark, 93% of the tickets are on Denmark, and 91% of the money's on the over for this game. So, this the way it is. Let's have a look at some of the comments. And Mulavadi both teams scoring over 2.5. Denmark -1, says Dan Roebuck. He thinks they're going to win big. Pavel Sulch over 1.5 shots, about minus 120 there.
Yeah,
a player that you're quite familiar with for Czechia. Could be
I mean, Pavel Sulch is a really interesting player. I like him. I know Giuseppe's in the chat today. I can't still quite work out what sort of a player he is for Lyon, other than one that's very effective, scored lots of goals for them. And the difference he makes to Lyon, this is in France League One, when he's on the pitch, he's very clear. So, yeah, very interesting to see some of the stats there. I wasn't aware he'd been quite as impressive in terms of shots on goal for Czechia as he has been. But yeah, great player, sort of player who you'd like to see at a World Cup, but unfortunately, I think he might be missing out today.
Yeah, I know Giuseppe, I think, has mentioned before, he thinks Sulch is possibly Lyon's most important player, or one of the most important players. Effective is a good word for him. Father Brian says Denmark 2-1 or 3-1. It should be another exciting match. Okay, Bosnia, Italy then. Italy, apparently, I read this the other day. If you are 16 years old or younger in Italy, you've never seen the team at the World Cup.
Good Lord,
before.
It's crazy.
And it's basically one of those where the media over there, it's great. Yeah, it's barely believable, isn't it? The media are saying, do it for for this generation sort of thing. Minus 225 Italy to win in 90 minutes. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's the shortest odds of anyone in these European playoffs today. We saw, of course, videos at the weekend, leaked footage of Italy players celebrating Bosnia winning on penalties against Wales. Now, it might be they just wanted, they like Bosnia. Maybe they wanted them to win, but there's some suggestions that they would have certainly preferred going here than to Wales. And I agree with that. I think Italy were the big winners of that match a few days ago, because it went extra time and penalties. Yeah. They're not going to get, I don't think they're going to get a better chance in a one-off game to make a World Cup, James.
Yeah.
Is it a slam dunk?
Well, I'm not so sure it is. Well, I think they'll go through. I was a bit put off by their price, I've got to be honest, in 90 minutes. They've obviously won fairly convincingly against Northern Ireland, so they had very few problems in that game to get here. But minus 225 on an Italy side where it's almost the psychology and the emotional importance of the game that scares me a little bit for Italy. Not a huge amount, but a little bit, because there is so much riding on it. I mean, you're talking there, they're branding it as a game, that the team needs to win for a whole generation of the country, right? So I think it will be a test of character for Gattuso, the manager, and for the players as well to some degree. And I just feel Bosnia have got nothing to lose. You know, they're such big outsiders. You know, they're not going to be super easy to beat. I think they're a fairly good team. They look quite an improved team to me. They've been difficult to beat recently. So I'm slightly nervous about Italy winning in 90 minutes. I think they should get through, but minus 225 in 90 minutes doesn't really appeal to me. The only thing I would say about Bosnia, because there are some people I've seen online talking about the threat that they will pose here, and they are on a good run of results. I think it's, what is it now, 5 or 6 unbeaten, something like that. They haven't faced a top team in this run of unbeaten games that they've had. Wales, Austria, Romania, you know, Malta, Cyprus, teams like that they've played recently. So it is a bigger test, I think, for Bosnia than they've had recently. We'll find out a little bit more about them tonight as well. I don't have a pick or a lean on it. You know, Italy, obviously, to win in 90 minutes is very short. To qualify is obviously much, much shorter. I think they're minus 530 to qualify. So if you do like Italy, it's very difficult to find a way to back them. I quite liked both teams to score yes at plus 115. I think that's quite a big plus money price there on both teams finding the net, which has certainly been a trend in Bosnia's games recently. Depends whether you think Italy can keep a clean sheet away from home. I'm not so sure they can. And just to go back to one of the comments we had in chat earlier about backing the tie, you know, the tie price here is so big, plus 310, that if you backed the tie in all 4 of the European qualifiers, and this one was the only one to land, you'd make a profit. You know, so it's worth having a look at the tie in this game as maybe a way to not oppose Italy, but if you think they maybe struggle in 90 minutes, as I do. So fascinating game. Like I say, it's very difficult for me to find a really clear pick. I think both teams to score yes, which you're flagging up there. Because of the price, plus 115, I think it's a pretty big price. That would be the way that I would go on this game if I was going to go with anything at all.
Yeah, I'm not going to get involved in this game personally. I think there's a lot of pressure on Italy. The match isn't in Italy. Someone was asking that. It's in Zenica.
It is
15,000 capacity stadium. It looks like one of those where the crowd's right on top of you, and it can be, an awkward place to go. I'll be honest with you. I don't really rate Italy that much from a soccer perspective at international level, and I'm kind of hoping they qualify because they will join the group with Canada, Switzerland, and Qatar. Now, for me, the Swiss are going to win that group. I really rate Switzerland. And Italy, if Italy qualify, they'll be the favourite for that group, just on reputation. Yeah. And I think they can be really opposed at the World Cup. Probably, well, maybe not by Qatar, but I would be happily opposing them with Switzerland and even Canada for that matter.
Yeah, Canada would be one of those games where they really struggle, I think, isn't it? You know, Canada, if they defend properly, and then Jonathan David scores a penalty and something like that, you know. So, yeah, it'd be fascinating if they did go into that group. It's such a great World Cup group, isn't it? That if Italy are the 4th team in it.
Seen quite a lot of love in chat from Bosnia, for Bosnia. Dan Roebuck included. He's on their side today. Dan's really got some strong opinions today. I'm liking it. This is what it comes to now, James. We're at the stage where, and it was the same with the World Cup, everyone's got their opinion, the strong opinions on countries. It's exciting. I'm getting more excited the more I'm going through this show.
I can't wait.
I really am. 94% of the money's on Italy. 70% of the money on the over-under market's on the over. Good match to watch. Someone mentioned red card, did they? Clement Turpin is in the middle. A referee famous for not dishing that many cards, but a history of red cards does follow this referee. Don't always know why, but he does let a lot go, and sometimes the players believe they can get away with murder.
Fair point. Yes, true.
So he's not always the worst ref to be betting on for red cards. Anyway, just before we go, Steve from Lynn, DiMarco to score has been a bet for me, but I don't love goals in this one. DiMarco is hands down their best player. I think he's the best Italian player. Maybe the keeper actually. But it's one of those. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, we've not even got into the daily double yet today, but we are going to go there now because before 2 minutes was done, lots of comments about Congo. Congo, Jamaica. This is the Intercontinental playoffs, and DR Congo. They've been backed in actually.
Hugely.
DR Congo. Minus 132 now. Jamaica plus 425. The tie plus 215. Congo, of course, didn't have a competitive match before this one. Jamaica were minus 3.5 favourites against New Caledonia, and the goal line was 4, but only won 1-0. They will argue, well, that's all that matters. We got the win. We're into the next match. That's not convincing, though, is it? New Caledonia are one of the worst teams. Well, they are the worst team at these playoffs.
Yeah.
And Jamaica didn't look that good. Now, Congo, chat, we're loving Congo. You said at the time you agreed with it, James.
Yeah.
You're really loving them in this match to qualify, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, they would have been they are in many ways my bet of the day, especially if we've been broadcasting 10 hours ago when their price was even bigger. I think DR Congo are a very good bet to win this game. I think they're a good bet to win it in 90 minutes. They were minus 107 about 8 hours ago to win in 90 minutes. That's come into minus 132 now. They were minus 235 to qualify earlier today. They're now minus 295 to qualify. So lots of people backing them. I think the price was too big on DR Congo because there is a big difference in quality between these two sets of players. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If you look through the DR Congo starting 11 and substitutes, and you look through the Jamaica starting 11 and substitutes, DR Congo should win this game. They've got lots of experience in their side. They've got good team news. Their better players are available. They've warmed up for this with a 2-0 friendly win over Bermuda, which may not tell you very much. But if you look at how they played at the AFCON, yes, they didn't win it, but they drew with Senegal. They obviously ended up being, let's say, one of the two best teams in that tournament. They drew 0-0 with Algeria. And they got here with a win over Cameroon and then a win on penalties against Nigeria. So DR Congo have got a far better pedigree and track record than Jamaica. I find it extremely difficult to see how it will be Jamaica celebrating qualifying for the World Cup at the end of this game. So I think backing DR Congo to win in 90 minutes makes sense. I think we're going to double up, aren't we, in the daily double on DR Congo to qualify with another bet. I think DR Congo to qualify is obviously too short for most people as a single. But I think definitely worth putting into a parlay if you want to do a parlay on today's games. Somebody in chat has mentioned there, it's Ginepi, Congo to win to 0. Really like that as well. Plus 165. They keep a lot of clean sheets. I think Jamaica will be extremely defensive today and just hope they can hang on and maybe take it to extra time. And I quite like under 2 goals at minus 108 because I think obviously DR Congo may take a narrow win. The only reason I'm slightly nervous about under 2 goals is if DR Congo were to score quite early and then Jamaica have to come out and attack, maybe DR Congo can run away and win it comfortably. So I tend to lean towards DR Congo to win to 0 or them to qualify in the daily double. But the top line point for me on this game is that I think the price was a little bit wrong on this game. It's corrected now, but if you are looking for a play today, possibly the best play of the day would be to back DR Congo for me to qualify.
This should be Nigeria, really, shouldn't it? They'll be a great addition to the World Cup with so many sensational attackers. But I remember watching that match. They won on penalties against them. Congo outplayed Nigeria, really. They're a very underrated African team. They've got a lot of physical strength. That's a big... I mean, Jamaica, to be fair, aren't lightweight in that department either, but they can bully teams a bit physically. It does scream of like 1-0, 2-0 territory. Win to 0 sort of thing. And if it does go extra time, they've just got that extra stamina that might give them the edge to get a goal. And they've won on penalties before.
And they've won on penalties before. Exactly that, Steve. This is a team who are at a much higher level of competition than Jamaica. I'm thinking of the AFCON. And also World Cup qualifiers through the African qualifying route have been there and done it. They're not the top team in Africa. We know that. But they're a very hardy, durable side, and I just don't see how they don't get through somehow. And they should have that little bit of extra quality from somewhere. Players like Wyss and Bakambu, and I've always liked Leah, who's played in Switzerland. So they should get through, but it could be narrow, and maybe it will take extra time, something like that. But I think over 90 or 120 minutes, at some point, the difference in quality should be made clear. So I'm very strongly backing them to make it to the World Cup.
Yeah, I really like Congo here as well. I think they'll get through, and that's going to be the first part of the daily double, Congo to qualify. There is 86% of the money on them for this game, 94% of the tickets. Still more money for the over than the under here, which surprises me a bit. 63% of the money on the over, probably because the goal line's low and it can attract certain bettors in for that sort of thing. So, that's the first part of the daily double. Before we talk about the second part of the double and also the Intercontinental game, how does a bit of Bet Rivers banter What do you think about that, James? Because if you're looking for a betting angle, check out the Top Picks newsfeed in your BetRivers app. The BetRivers Banter newsfeed is filled with picks from the BetRivers network, personalities, and more handicappers to give you expert insights. Tap the Top Picks icon in your BetRivers app to get the latest tips. That sounds really exciting.
Sounds great.
I say.
Yeah, sounds great.
We all like a bit of banter.
We do indeed. Yes.
Absolutely do go and check that one out. The second Intercontinental playoff game, I think it's a difficult one. We haven't got anything ourselves. Iraq against Bolivia. The winner of this tie faces France, Senegal, and Norway. I don't think they're going to get many points out of that group.
No. Definitely the winner of this will be the fourth strongest side in that group.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
I actually watched Bolivia play against Suriname the other night, and they came from behind to win.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness me, the amount of time wasting. I was getting really fed up with the players rolling around on the ground, stuff like that. And I think this match is going to be full of stop-start fouls, things like that. We could get cards in this game as well. I just think it's the way that both teams play. Certainly Bolivia. So, I mean, I'm not going to watch it anyway. I think at 4 a.m. my time. Even those on the Eastern Seaboard might be it might be past their bedtime here. Good luck to both teams. I can't pick a side here, to be honest with you. I'm really struggling with it. Have you got any strong thoughts to who will go through?
Same, Steve. This is the game of all the games we're covering today, which I think is the hardest to make a clear call on. Partly because there's very little form actually on either side. If you look through their recent international fixtures, there's gaps here and there in terms of performances, and there's erratic performances. And obviously Bolivia were not impressive in the South American qualifying. They're here because obviously there are just simply not that many teams in the South American qualifying group. And once the teams have gone through, automatically you're quite deep down the table. So, Bolivia here, despite the fact I think they've lost 5 of their last 10 internationals, there's always talk with Bolivia, isn't there, of course, about what they're like when they're not playing in Bolivia, whether it's something that's going to massively hinder them or not here. We'll have to wait and see, but very difficult to call. I think these are two pretty weak sides. And, you've talked there about the group they're going to land in. It sounds a bit disrespectful at this early stage to say whoever goes through will be making up the numbers, but they're going to fall into a very challenging group there. So they will be. No view on the game. And, I think the market to some degree doesn't have a particularly strong view on the game. It's obviously neutral territory being played in Monterrey, but plus 143 for Iraq, plus 190 for Bolivia, plus 215 for the tie. It probably makes sense, but I couldn't say with any confidence that those prices are massively right or massively wrong, actually. And when you're in that position and you're trying to gauge a game, I think it's time to back off. So very similar to you, Steve. I have no strong views at all on this one.
Right, on to international friendlies then. There's a few high-profile matches we're going to talk about. England, USA, Canada, and a couple of others as well. England, Japan. Now, Lewis Jones nailed the England game the other night against Uruguay. England and unders sometimes do work quite well in friendlies. However, Japan are known for playing quite expansive soccer, and often when there's been a bit of criticism about England, because it was all I kept seeing on my timeline on during that match was turn it off, awful stuff. Yeah, the criticism, and sometimes England respond after that a bit more. So, are we going to get a better game? Do you think? Is it maybe the opposition might allow for that as well? I think we are going to get a bit better game, Steve. It was truly dreadful the other night, I felt, to watch. Hard to know what Tuchel was getting out of it. For those that don't know, Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, picked a particularly big squad for this international get-together compared to a lot of his European counterparts, a 35-man squad, and he picked the more fringe players out of those 35, primarily in that first game against Uruguay, some of whom have already left the camp, and we should see a stronger England team tonight. So I think that will help make for a better performance from England, although some of their regular starters are missing, we should say. Declan Rice is out, Bukayo Saka is out, John Stones and Jude Bellingham are out as well. So, that's 4 possible starters for the World Cup who are missing. But there should be enough quality in the starting 11 from England to get a better performance. We're expecting the likes of
Harry Kane to play, maybe Morgan Rogers in the number 10 position, and a fairly close to a first choice defence as well. So I'm expecting a more coherent England performance. Whether it justifies the price of England to win the game of -200, I'm not sure. I think Japan will pose a pretty tough challenge here. The reports coming out of Japan about this team are that it's a very good team. Their recent internationals would reflect that. Obviously, they've just beaten Scotland 1-0, but they've had wins recently against Bolivia and Ghana and Brazil as well. So I think they'll have a go. I think they'll be using it to fine-tune a few things before the World Cup. And they should pose a challenge because, we see England in friendlies at home so many times struggle to dominate the game the way we maybe think they could or should. And I think Japan are a side who can stop England from doing that again tonight. So -200 on England doesn't have a great deal of appeal for me. I quite like both teams to score yes at -127 because I do think Japan will go forwards here when they can and really try and score. There's one player I wanted to flag up for Japan in the over 0.5 shot on target market. That player is Junya Ito, who may or may not start. We're not quite sure if he's going to be in the starting 11. He's a right winger most of the time at club level. He can sometimes play as a second striker. So it might depend a little bit on where Japan use him as to whether he gets into shooting positions. But he's +200 is Junya Ito to have over 0.5 shots on target tonight. And he is a player who likes to have a shot on goal and can get into scoring positions and can hit the target. So I quite like him as a player prop if he starts. But generally speaking, on the money line and the major markets here, there's nothing that really stands out to me. I am probably leaning towards opposing England more than I am to backing England, but not quite enough to have anything big on this particular match.
Yeah, a player that you are familiar with at his time in France for Stade de Reims, and he's been going all right for Genk this season, I do believe, as well. So Junya Ito there for a shot on target. I'm kind of thinking this might be, it should be a better game than the Uruguay fixture because I think England might want to try and prove a point. It should be a stronger England team for a start, so more of a threat in there. Will Japan score? Well, they'll have a go. They'll have a go, won't they? That's the way they play. Whether they're good enough to score is a different matter. Sometimes that England defence looks rock solid, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, sort of mental mistakes, a bit of sloppiness, carelessness is in friendlies. So I could see that actually landing, James, to be fair.
Yes.
There is 95% of the money on England, 94% of the tickets on England, 83% of the money's on the over for this fixture. USA-Portugal now. This match kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. USA badly beaten by Belgium. We didn't really see that one coming, I don't think, not to such an extent on the eve of the World Cup. 5-2. They need to bounce back here against Portugal if they can. +360 for the USA. Portugal -159. A Portuguese side who were locked in a pretty drab 0-0 draw against Mexico over the weekend. The goal line's quite high here. It's at 3 Asian, which kind of annoyed me because do you know what? It's one of those lines for this game. You don't really want to go over it. You don't really want to go under it. Yeah. I would have wanted it either a higher line or a lower line because I'm not sure how the USA are going to respond here. I know there's been a lot of criticism, and Pochettino he's been linked with other jobs anyway in the last few months. When you've just lost 5-2, do you just stay true to your sort of beliefs and your style and keep trying to attack, or do they need to be a bit better defensively in this game do you think the USA?
Well, I think that's the interesting talking point tactically, really, rather than betting, is to see what Pochettino does tonight, because that is a big defeat they've just suffered. And it does ask some questions of what he's doing with the side. I'm very interested to see how they set up. I'm the same as you on the goal line, Steve. I was really disappointed to see it's at 3. If it had been 2.5 or even 2.75, I might have been tempted to go overs on this game.
Definitely.
But then the concern that maybe USA are going to try and keep it a bit tighter means over 3 at minus money doesn't really have any appeal, does it? So it's one to watch for me, is this game. I'm not getting involved in it. But I think USA have got a few questions asked of them there in that last game. And it's not crucial tonight. Obviously, we've got league games for these players to play to still prove themselves to the manager. But obviously, we're kind of out of time now to fine tune our teams for the World Cup, and so it's not an unimportant game. Let's put it that way for the USA. So I think what Pochettino does with them tactically, how he sets them up, etc. It will be interesting, and it should, for me, be quite instructive as regards what they then do at the World Cup.
It's a far more important game for the USA. I just suspect Portugal kind of want to get in and out of here without any injuries, any too much drama. But USA away in a friendly in Atlanta, that kind of screams a bit of craziness as well, potentially. Depends which version of Roberto Martinez we get. So if this ended 0-0, I wouldn't actually be shocked. If it ended 3-3, I'm not shocked. I just don't know. So I can't get involved. The goal line is so frustrating. It really is. I wanted, if it was 2.5, automatic over. If it's 3.5, probably nibble under. So yeah, let's see where the money is for the game. Which do I have the breakdown? Yes, I do. 77% of the money is on the USA, which surprised me actually for the game. 89% of the tickets on Portugal though, and 87% of the over/under money is on the over. Maybe that is where the direction we should go in. I can't even really give you a sort of gun to my head sort of thing. I just don't know, James.
Same, Steve. One to leave alone. I think individual performances are really interesting tonight for the USA players playing for places, things like that. But in terms of the big markets, no, one to leave alone for me.
User 0918S says Norway, Switzerland has to have goals in it, right? First time commenting. Yes. I usually watch on delay. Welcome in. First thing to say there, great to have you in chat, and I would agree. I think there will be goals in that fixture. Haaland is in the squad for this match. I don't know if I think he's set to start, possibly, certainly in the squad. So a fresher Haaland might be just what the doctor ordered there against Switzerland. Let's go to the sorry, James.
I was just going to say the goal line is very high on that game.
About the Norway game?
Yeah, just that I think over 2.5 goals is minus 190 on that game, something like that. So I completely agree with the commenter there. I think we are going to have goals in the game, but I think the market thinks there will be goals as well.
Right, Canada, Tunisia, and this is the second part of the daily double. Canada minus 157 favourites to beat Tunisia at plus 420 for the African nation, plus 275 on the tie. Goal line generally set at 2.5. Both teams score yes at minus 125. To some people, this fixture might look a little bit nothing too fancy, nothing too special. But for you, James, you were licking your lips because you are a bit of a Tunisian specialist down the years. A team what probably got to be in the top 10 teams for internationals that you've kept your eye on down in the last two decades, really. So what's the play in the game? How's it going to go?
Well, yeah, I do like the Tunisia national team in terms of, the players they've had down the years, often had some interesting players. They don't always perform as well as I'm expecting. They can let you down. But I think this is an interesting game. And I think it's interesting on the goal line because I was surprised to find the goal line set at 2.5. Over goals at 2.5 is around the 50-50 call. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. That's my view on it. I think Tunisia games, especially when they're away from home, they tend to move towards being under games, although their goal count has gone up a little bit in the last 6 months. But I don't really think that's the instinct of this team, which for me does lack goals when you look at the 11 starters normally. And I think 8 out of Canada's last 10 internationals has had under 2.5 goals as well, which is worth noting. They have just drawn 2-2 against Iceland, but both of their goals from Jonathan David were from the penalty spot. So I think we're going to get a low-scoring game here. As I say, if you're looking for a single, under 2.5 goals at minus 118 might be worth a look. But for our daily double, I'm going to go a little bit safer, a little bit more conservative. Canada versus Tunisia, under 3 Asian goals is available as a single at minus 210. So if you stick it in the daily double, with the Congo to qualify pick that we had earlier, it pays out at very close to evens at minus 103. So that's my reading on these two teams. It's a friendly. Obviously, you're never quite sure a friendly is going to play out as a competitive game would, but I think there's enough evidence on these two sides that it's going to be a low-scoring game. So yeah, second half of the daily double, Canada versus Tunisia, under 3 Asian goals.
Brazil against Croatia, James.
Yeah.
How do you see this friendly going? Brazil minus 141 favourites, over 2.5 goals, minus 167. Let us know your thoughts.
Yes, very quick thoughts on this. I was going to leave this one alone as a friendly game as well, but I quite like the over goals on this. Obviously, over 2.5 goals there at minus 167 is extremely short. Will be too short for a lot of people, I would think, at that price. Maybe you want to look at over 2.75 goals or over 3 goals instead. I watched a lot of the Brazil game the other night against France. They did struggle defensively. They were obviously playing an excellent France attack, and they're not going to face that sort of team every game. But I think goals is the way to play here, because I think Brazil will have a point to prove after losing that game against France the other night. And I think they're going to go for it. I think they'll be willing to give up a few chances to try to get the win here. So over goals in some way, depending on what goal line you like, would be the way that I would play this.
Yeah. Apologies if my internet went a bit dodgy a few minutes ago for those who were watching. But yeah, reminder of that daily double. It is DR Congo to qualify against Jamaica, and then under 3 Asian total, Canada versus Tunisia. Back to that Brazil game, I totally agree. I think we could see some goals in it. And I like this match. Good battle. South America versus Croatia. Two teams to keep an eye on at the World Cup, that's for sure. And Mexico are in action as well, by the way. They're against Belgium.
Yes.
Plus 250 for Mexico. Belgium plus 104. Thai plus 240. Belgium team that are always involved in high-scoring games against a Mexico team that don't concede many. It's another annoying matchup. This time, it is, isn't it? This time the goal line is maybe low enough to take a nibble on. But what is it about Mexico? Whenever I watch them play, like it's not boring.
Yeah.
But they just have a knack of not being involved in that many that many goals, because there's fouls involved and stuff like that. Games, they stop counterattacks and along those lines. How do you approach that sort of game where you've got a team that scores a lot against a team that doesn't? I never quite know.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And you've got that contrast here. I think Mexico will be pretty pleased with the way things are going at the moment as co-hosts of the World Cup. I think they've kept a clean sheet in their last 3 matches. They'll be pretty content with that. They had a really impressive draw from their perspective against Portugal. If you've just drawn 0-0 against Portugal and you're facing a fairly similar type of European side here, I think if you're Mexico, you play in exactly the same way. You try and keep it tight and you try and build on the defensive performance you've just produced against Portugal. So I think if I had to go for one of the two, under or overs, I would probably go for unders. I think Mexico's approach to the game may win out against Belgium's. I really like, by the way, seeing Lucas Stas in there, the Saint-Etienne striker, on the list of potential goal scorers. He's a player people may not know, but he's had a Belgium call-up for this get-together, and he's playing for a place in the World Cup. So I may be looking at the Belgium lineup when they name it and look at some of the player props. But generally speaking, Steve, it is tricky because you've got a contrast here in terms of the form of the two sides and the way they play. Like I say, if Mexico can keep it tight and get another 0-0 draw, I think they'd be absolutely delighted.
Do you know what? Yeah, you're right. If they got the 0-0 against Portugal, just don't change anything, right? Because Belgium are probably, I think so. In that regard, I think you're right. I think it would more be under than over. And I do think some of the big nations just want to get in and out of this international break with no damage. Yeah. So we could see a bit of a low-key match there. Plenty in the comments about San Marino. I didn't even know they were playing today, to be honest, against Andorra. I don't know what the odds are, but San Marino do have their cult backers, of course. If you are taking anything in that game, then good luck. What a matchup that is. By the way, in that Canada game, there is 79% of the over-under money's on the under. That is one of the biggest splits for under that I have seen. So I think you're definitely on the right track there, James. Let's hope we can get that daily double winner over the line. A reminder of it again, nearly even money. Congo qualifying under 3 Asian total. Canada, Tunisia. But we've done about an hour, James. Thanks so much for your brilliant insights into international soccer. Enjoy it today, guys. It's really, really exciting. We're going to know the World Cup lineup. So, gamble responsibly, but cash those winning tickets. Let's catch the Betting Weekly Live PM crew later as well at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And tomorrow, Dan Roebuck, Rui Barlow are going to dust down the results today and do a bit of segunda action as well. Cheers, James, again.
Cheers,
See you
everybody.
next time.
Thank you.
On Betting Weekly Live. Goodbye.